So I just want to introduce you. So we have Carl's just presenting with us today from Spain, which will be awesome. Good to keep this very international. But talking about accessibility in mathematics and other scientific fields, which pushing my buttons as an ex-science math teacher. So looking forward to it. And thank you for your time, for giving your time up today to present this. Over to you.
Thank you, Shane. I'm Carlos from Wiris. I wanted to show me a bit, just to see that, to show you that it is a wild night for us. In Spain, it's 5 a.m. So if you see me fading, just give a shout or chat or something, okay? Good. I'll talk about accessibility in quite general terms, and of course, we have tackled this issue in Wiris for the mathematics with a very specific approach. I'll also talk about that approach and the things that have been done by others in order to start dealing with this. You'll see that everything is very at a startup phase, I can say. Well, I'll turn me off here, and I think you are seeing the main PowerPoint place. If you have anything, just chat or just to say hello, and I'll see that you're here alive, attending, and so on. I'll start. So the talk is achieving accessibility in mathematics and other scientific fields. The first step, let us define accessibility. So sorry, I'm trying to set up an extra thing. Okay. Good. So as you see here, accessibility is the interaction between human beings and computers, regardless of their different abilities and of possible impairments, which can be of many different types, right? Many more different types that people normally think when we talk about accessibility. So the most common is the top rightmost, which is the visual impairment, the complete or partial. We talk popularly of blindness, also color blindness, and any other visual specificity that requires assistive technologies, right? We'll deal with this one as a central one, of course, but there is also other types of impairments, and we are also dealing with that in Wiris. So learning, communicating disabilities like dyslexia, autism, and other types of learning that can affect the classroom, but also the reading and comprehension of materials, right? Also like in paper or on the screen. The third one is hearing impairments, which are minor in a sense to us, because on the computer for mathematics, we don't normally have audio. In our case, we don't do video, and we don't do flash and things that come with audio. So this is for the math contents from a certain view, not as crucial, but of course it's also a type of impairment that can be dealt with, also in mathematics. And the last one is motor or dexterity impairments, like paralysis or others that affect most typically the ability for the computer user to use a keyboard or to use a mouse or to interact with the content, right? Of course, there's a lot that has been done regarding this, and there are computers adapted to people using them with only a foot or with only the eyes or with many different possibilities that are very individual, that are very subject specific. Good. We have also done a bit of work on this impairment, especially from the content creation point of view. So I'll talk more about each of them as we go along, right? If there is anything, do not hesitate interrupting me, because I don't think I'll use up the whole hour, so no problem going back and forth and talking about extra things, right? I'll try to keep a clear view at every point. Good. So in the case of Moodle, in the very specific context of content creation and content presentation, there's 4 different subjects that can be affected. As you see, the last one, which is maybe the typical attendee of the iMoot, has been great because there is no so much interaction between my staff and the administrator, just possibly the installation of plugins or the installation of stuff that helps the math teachers and students, but normally the administrator will not be doing mathematics himself in the platform, right? So that's why this is great at the end. I have separated 3 categories. Content creation, that's the first step, I would say, of supporting the Moodle user, which can be different from the teacher. Content creation has been tackled, I would say, very little from the accessibility point of view. Sorry. Then there is teacher point of view. So when he's interacting with the mathematics and the students and grading and giving feedback, etc. And then, of course, the student will get the assignments, will get the information, the contents of the lessons, and he also needs to be able to do that if there is an accessibility issue, right? Good. This is like the same thing of different actors playing a role in accessibility and seen from the point of view of the time when the content is acted upon. So there's basically 2 times: when it is created and when it is read, either by teacher or by student, right? Of course, ability is a lot more to do with content interpretation, as it's, let's say, the more generic part, right? But there's some specific things also in content creation. So we'll mostly be talking about content interpretation, but I'll refer specifically to creation steps, right? Okay. There are, oh, I forgot this effect because I transformed the thing into a PDF. I forgot this slide, but because of Big Blue Button has this nice zoom thing, I can also show it. So there are basically 2 ways dealing with accessibility. I'll talk about them very soon. just to give you an idea about what we're talking about. So this is the Wireless formula editor that we integrate in Moodle. And these are a very simple formula created with it. So basically, you click on this little button to make a subscript and then type X+1. The accessibility effort is to be able to deliver a text to the user. In this case, 2 to the power of x plus 1 and exponent. We want to differentiate this plus 1 up here, or 2 to the power of x, and then a plus 1 at the same level as 2. Right? So, as if you've dealt with accessibility before, you will probably know what most people have when they have a sight impairment, when they're blind or partially blind, is a screen reader, which is the software that reads out loud everything that happens on your screen. I tried the experience, and it's very awkward for those of us who are not used to hearing all day. So there is a lot of information that goes unnoticed, that is sort of in background for a seeing user, and that, well, it needs to be brought forward in a time sequence mode, let's say, if you're blind. And this is in this sense an awkward experience, and I didn't want to do it in the presentation because it's a bit irritating, I can say. Good. So this screen reader, what it does is it reads all the content, right? If you're reading a math content for a lecture or a lesson, so there's probably some text that will be read out loud, and then the browser or the screen reader finds a math formula, right? This math formula needs to be interpreted as something else, as plain MathML or LaTeX or whichever it is that you are using for rendering mathematics, right? If any of these MathML or LaTeX, it's not very important, that's why I'm not going to it. But if any of you want some more explanation about these, just give a shout in the chat area, right? And I'll go a bit deeper into this. And I'll move forward. I'll go back to this verbalization in a second. But first, let me talk about types of verbalization. So in this example, where we had 2 to the power of x plus 1, and we need the screen reader to be able to interpret this. So there's 2 different ways of doing it, right? There's what I call a grammatical way, or what is called in the literature generally grammatical verbalization, and the prosodic verbalization. And well, they have pros and cons, so good things and bad things. The grammatical one, it is the one that you just saw. So it would read here 2 to the power of x plus 1 and exponent to make it crystal clear that the plus 1 goes up here. And in this other example, just to check for what happens when there is a bit of ambiguity, 2 to the power of x and exponent plus 1. Right? So it makes a difference on a very like machine-like language, I can say. And then the prosodic approach would be 2 to the power of x plus 1. You can see the pause before the x to make it clear that this is a group, right? Or in this second example, 2 to the power of x plus 1. I make a pause after the x to make it clear that the plus 1 does not refer to this group, but to the more general group. This set has good things and bad things. So the grammatical approach is unambiguous. This example was very simple, but it can really become more complex. Right? When you have tested things and different things. So of course there is a limit also in what we keep in mind in an audio mode and what we constantly see in a visual mode. So there is maybe a bigger effort in mentally dealing with the audio expression of a visual formula, right, or of a formula than of the visual image. And so that's why I say this can be important. So this is more complex. But the one has the good thing that it's simpler, has the bad thing that it can be ambiguous. Like in this example I have up here. And of course it can also be done. But this is also a very simple example. There are cases when it will be really ambiguous. But this is a first challenge, I would say. So if I go for the grammatical approach, I would say here, fraction, begin numerator, 2/3, end numerator, or start denominator, whatever for, right? And for this one, I would say numerator to denominator. Whereas in the prosodic approach, it's a lot more subtle. So I have to go 2/3 divided by 4, or 2 divided by 3/4, or these sort of constructions, right? So it still can be done here, but I think you can see the point that when it becomes more complex, it can become a bit more ambiguous and difficult to understand. But before starting with a more technical part of the presentation, I wanted to show this statement, which is not very encouraging, but it's actually by Mika Cepela, which is one of the leaders, one of the top people dealing with this since a few years ago. And he's been involved in many projects, some paid by the European Commission, some in the academic world, and in different areas, dealing always with mathematics, and in particular also with accessibility. Those of you who have been patient and have not read this already, so I'll read it out loud. And he says, this statement is maybe 2-3 years old, but I think it hasn't happened that much. He says, currently, there is a complete mismatch between mainstream software for mathematics and existing screen readers when it comes to multimodal presentations of formula. In most cases, formula are printed on the screen using graphical glyphs, so images. Hence, learning environments are basically unusable for mathematics by people with disabilities such as dyslexia, dysgraphia, and any visual impairment. That was, of course, before Wiris did something about it. So there, you'll see we've done first steps, but these are one of the first steps in the whole community also. So we have to regard them as that. And I'll move on to the more technical part. I talk about two approaches, what I call the plugin approach and the image approach. Right? I try to keep the slides very simple. I never do PowerPoints, so I always present live, and I must be a bit scared of them or something because I haven't put much information. But if you want to see MathML, or if you want to find out more about things, just say it on the chat, okay? And I'll just stop for a sec and type in some MathML here. You can also see it in our demo if you wish. If you go to, I'll type it here. If you're, because I'm typically doing a few different things at the same time when I attend. So not now, of course, but if you want to see it here, you can see it in this URL, and you can see what MathML looks like, what LaTeX looks like. It's on the down part, so I won't do it. But you can do it yourself if you want to interact with the formula creation and so on. Good. I'll go with the plugin approach. So basically, there are like I stopped talking about accessibility for a second. So in order to present mathematical formulas, expressions on a website, like back to this one, this, whoop. Okay, there are basically two ways of doing it. So one is creating the math expression with a visual editor like this one, or by typing stuff. I think I have here. Oops. Oh, there's the beginning of MathML here. I think I'm discovering this blue button also. And I'd like to move it out here. There's a now. Oh, there's still a little bit. But, however, I was just talking about the math formula. So when you want to present a math formula to a user, so not one that requires accessibility, but anyone. So there's two ways of doing it. Basically, you can either create an image and give the image to the browser, and of course, every browser knows what to do with an image, or give the browser, which can evaluate two more things, give the browser MathML or LaTeX and let him render the thing. Or give in the case of Moodle, there's LaTeX and MathML filters that can help you with math content, right? So you save MathML, and then the filter will interpret this MathML and transform this into a regular formula, a natural form, right? Depending on this approach, so the first one would be the image approach, create an image. The second one would be the plugin approach. Right? And why do I call it the plugin approach? Because now I go back to accessibility. When you're in accessibility, I go back to 5. You have a MathML formula. The screen reader cannot normally read MathML, right? The most typical one is JAWS. There are some alternatives to it, but the most widely distributed one is called. And this one needs, I would say everyone does, an extra plugin to be able to interpret MathML. So basically, you have your MathML, you have a plugin that transforms this MathML into something, so natural language or something that the screen reader can deal with. And then the effect for the blind person is that this MathML is transparent, you can say, so he will get his formula read out loud or her formula read out loud. Good and bad things of this approach. So they start with the bad things. So dependence on external elements and technologies. Of course, this works if you are working on your computer, but you have to have the screen reader plus the plugin, and all the elements have to work together very neatly. So you might have problems with different computers, OSs, with mobile devices, with different things. So that's why I say dependence on external technologies, and it's also the second drawback on compatibilities on different devices and OS and operating systems. And that's of course a very major one. So you can be left out from the game on your mobile phone or on your tablet or different items that you're using to interact with your content. And the good things that it has is that it's very convivial with CSS style sheets and text formatting. So it's not a luxury thing for totally blind people, for example. So they will have a very strong screen configuration when users can see a bit of the screen, but not with the precision that most people can. And they will have a very strong black and white mode, very high contrast magnifiers, and different or text sizes and different elements to make things more readable for them. So this conviviality is very important, or can be very important for some users. So for partial blindness, and while I'm advancing when I talk about conviviality, but it's also this thing. So the formula adapts to the user parameterization of the screen. I was saying it can be pretty smart. And so much for the plugin approach. You've got the Nathaniel, you have a plugin that transforms this into text, and then the screen will read it. Image approach. So basically, you're dealing internally with the formula, and you're presenting the browser an image, right? What does the screen reader with an image? So if there is an alternative text, he will read it. Not he read the image name, which for a formula can be anything from a letter number sequence .png, which doesn't mean anything, right? So it's very frustrating if there is not an alternative text. And the good way to go is you type in an alternative text like a landscape could and should have. So you may be seeing a castle of Edinburgh. So a good accessible image would have an alternative text saying view of the castle of Edinburgh at dawn in spring, whatever, right? In the case of an image, of a formula, sorry, the image should contain something like the textual description of the formula, right? Like the one we were talking about. So 2 to the power of x plus 1 and exponent, or 2 to the power of x plus 1, whichever, right? But a text that the screen reader can interpret. And while I already advanced that we went for this approach in Wireless, I'll talk about there's a bit more explanation on how it works. So the formula is stored as an image. The image contains a standard tag, like an image, alternative text with textual description. And then the example which I did manual, I made it wrongly. I noticed before, but I didn't correct it. So f open parentheses x close parentheses equal integral subscript a subscript b f parentheses in the image z close parentheses dz. Right, of course. And this is a possible translation. There are many others. So we can say capital F function of x, or so you can be finer. As I said, we're doing first steps. So there are, like for 1/2, we'll say 1/2. We won't say 1/2 because it's a second step for the tool to interpret all these things in context, we can say, right? Parentheses, integral, there are many details that we express in a more natural way or a less natural way. Good and bad things of this image approach. Bad things. Little conviviality with CSS and different text styles because you're presenting an image. First, the image can resize or can be resized or can resize automatically with the CSS and the user configuration. But as I say in the second one, by enlargement of a formula, it loses quality due to extrapolation. So like any other image, if you make it large, have less definition. Which, well, again, it's maybe more crucial for a partially blind person than for with an excellent sight. They can be important. And the good things, and that's what we went for this. So this is independent of plugins and screen readers, and produces a very robust system where you can see your content on your tablet, on your telephone, everywhere, because you're requiring very little from the system, which is being able to deal with a regular image. Of course, like most systems forget mathematics, but no one forgets images today. So you will always be able to show an image and read the alternative text, right? And that makes it transversally deployable in different devices and OSs. And now, sorry, I'll move backwards for a sec before coming to this. So this is the second approach. So the screen reader basically gets the job done. So he gets the textual description. He doesn't need any extra thing. As I said at the beginning, the approach that you're taking, the image or the plugin, is linked to the way you're dealing with mathematics in general, not only with accessibility. So if you're doing images for representing formulas, you are forced to go for this approach, for the alternative text approach, right? If you're doing plugin, you are forced to go with the mathematical interpretation approach. And but to finish, well, I'll finish by showing you the thing live, sharing my screen, I think. But before that, just a moment of thought for the content creators, because I said we have done work on the student, the teacher formula presentation for the math content, but the content creator, which can be a teacher or not, can also be supported regarding accessibility, right? And that would mean I lose the effects because I did a small effect on PowerPoint. Of course, a fake. It was a bit of a glitch, but I see it's a bit weird here. Maybe because of these superposed images that I was using. So I'll go back to my previous slide where I have a formula editor to explain this. Okay, so basically, in order to support the content creator, there's of course the same accessibility. So when you're typing in your formula, creating your formula, you can get this read out loud. So that's the first step. And then for the other accessibility user, which can have dexterity impairment. So they are maybe using the formula editor or the computer with one foot or with a part of the body with one arm or whichever. There is also a work that we've done very consciously, which was not done before, on the way to access the tabs and the elements via the keyboard. So just by pressing the tab key and the space key for selecting, you can move on the first tab between different elements. You then tap again. Oops, sorry. Tap again, and then you move to the second tab, and then you can move to the elements and so on and so forth. So that's another extra effort that we've done to support the people with accessibility issues, right? So as I said, these are first steps. So we have a roadmap where we plan being able to take away the background, magnify. So there's normally a magnifier on the screens of partially blind people. But also being able to naturally magnify all the elements that help the user save the cumbersome part of the built-in magnifier and so basically making it more natural for them to work with the toolbar, right? And so you can currently navigate through it quite naturally, but for the person blind, there's a lot coming in the roadmap of the accessibility development in wireless. And I think I want to share my desktop. I know that that will mean, oh, I can choose a region. I can do that. Now I think I would need your support in telling me if you are seeing, if you are seeing my screen. Oh, I see. Hold on. Can resize the region first. So okay. Good. And sorry. Little improvisation. I'm trying to make my browser fit the screen that I'm sharing. Okay. Please let me know by the chat that this is working and that you're seeing my screen and not working on this alone. Yes? Okay, excellent. Thank you. So this is a, oh, sorry, it's in many languages. I'm in English. Right. Basically, I'll take the other example. Oh, no. The power of x plus 1 and the exponent. So that you can see here the text that is given to the screen reader. There's, for the curious, here there's the FML, the latest transcriptions. See, so these are demos, so this is not really how it interacts. I'll show you in more. And there's also different toolbars. So we have here the full one. You are, I'll show the full one. This is the first tab, the second one. You can see that it's a pretty complete toolbar. And many different possibilities. You can configure it. So we have here a full and a simple one. We are working on a chemistry specific of elements, and you can also configure your toolbar. Right? And here we have the most commonly used. Right? Okay, that's how it works. Just to let you know, we're presenting also on stream A, I would say presentation 37, this particular language. So Arabic editor, which goes right to left, and not only, it also comes with Arabic set of numbers and mirroring of formulas and different things specifically for this. Just a little publicity for the Arabic editor presentations, right? And I'll show you in Moodle. So we have also iris.com/demo from demo site where you can see Webinars Teacher. You can see some tools that we integrate in Moodle. And I'll only show format. So this is what the content looks like. So typically if you're in a math classroom, so you can have a math lesson, let f be continuously evaluate function, blah, blah, blah. This is already an image. So interval a, comma, b. This one, as I said, if there is no accessibility, or which most tools would do, it's just a image is, or in this case, sorry, show image PNG, so it doesn't give any information, right? And then of course all this same thing. Go to edit and go to the horrible way of moving. Well, it's actually sort of the experience that you can have with a very magnified screen, but of course not what I want for a presentation. But so here we've got the content, right? And you get here the image with your alternative text. If you wanted to edit this image, you can either double click or click on the file editor button. Right? Basically, this editor will work on any technology because it's not Java. It's done only with HTML and JavaScript, and you can modify your formula here and click on accept. It creates a new image, and the image comes with a new alternative text updated and stored in your cache memory, right? And basically, there's like two folders when you install Wireless Editor. One where you store the images, and one where you store the alternative texts. And what we do in Moodle is when you click here, we're showing an image for the preview. When you click on the save button, here, save and display, what we store in the content is not the image itself. It's MathML, so that the content is not, let's say, virus dependent, right? So you can uninstall the thing or move the content to somewhere else, whichever, and you can still work with this. And what we do is we install also a filter that does that at render time, this MathML is substituted by the image saved with the alternative text that is saved, right? So for the user, for the student, for the end user, it's an image when he's viewing the content, but from the content storage point of view, it's MathML, right? So that makes the thing very flexible and sustainable in a way, right? Well, I think I'll stop sharing my screen, but so last slide, basically for attending. So I think I've explained bits from a generic point of view about different ways of tackling accessibility, what this accessibility can refer to, and how it relates to math content and what has been done. There's also a few projects where it has been tackled in, as I said, some financed by governments, some stemming from the companies. And there's been a lot of work in open math, in different projects doing it, but the results have been quite theoretical and quite, they haven't been translated to some real benefits, I would say, so far. And this is where now things going. So the new projects that are starting is trying to take advantage of what has been done from an academic point of view and being able to transform that into real use or real benefits for the accessible users, let's say, and just to name them. So there's this coming and retrieving the information. So there's projects starting not so long ago. I can say like once or twice. Wow. Okay, yeah, WebAlt would be one of the first projects, and it started in 2005. So it's the first efforts were done 8 years ago, right? And WebAlt was a European finance project where we also took part, and trying to define a standard first. There has been other projects like Lambda, which is more of a company thing supported by the Spanish National Organization of Blind People, which you may think it's partial because I come from Spain, but it's actually one of the most important when it comes to funding and to possibilities and projects started and so on, organizations of blind people in the world, right? So the project was supported by this organization, and also working on the lines that we've given. But as I said, so there's been about nothing that has been very deployed or very useful at the end. And now the current project done by the European Commission is Malmo, which is a partner between 6 universities and 2 companies in 7 countries. And they're trying to exploit the benefits of Lambda and especially of WebAlt, and making of this academic approach of defining a standard and defining things into something usable, right? But that's about it. So as I said, as a company where we are doing first steps, but these are some of the first steps in the whole world are also dealing with this. Good. That's about it from my side. So there haven't been questions on the go. Most people have gone now, but if there is any question from the few remaining, so I'm also happy to answer them. And otherwise, so thanks very much for attending. I finally taken 50 minutes from the hour on the blah blah part and the speech part. So I'm open to questions and chat or by talking if you should have my.
Hey Carlos, it's Shane here. Just wanted to jump in and say thank you for spending the time, and it's certainly come a long way since I first saw it, so it's just good to see that actually. Yeah, and thank you, and don't want to shut down any questions if anyone has any. Leave it to there, but just thank you for your time. Cheers.
Thank you, Shane, and well, thank you for the whole team. You're not the only one moderating, so thank you for the support on the presentation and the opportunity to present this work also, which is a key point for a very small company like ours to be able to show what we do to the world. Thank you.